All right, so we're going to start to get into the nodes and get into Nuke a little bit just after this quick little overview of the main keyers. So the keyers, what exactly are they doing? So we have three primary keyers. We have Keylight, IBK, which stands for Image-Based Keyer, and we have Primat. So we're going to do a comprehensive overview of the tools, and after that, we're going to build out a compositing structure and go through multiple hands-on mini projects to really get a grasp of the concepts. So, keying is more complex than the nodes, and you can probably even find YouTube videos about the nodes and everything like that. But what's really important is the compositing structure and the theory and how everything builds together. So I'm going to go through the tools just so we're all on the same page. Whoever, if you maybe have a little bit of experience, maybe you have none. But once you get to the compositing structure, I think it'll benefit definitely everybody taking the course. So that's how it's kind of structured. So this is a example footage we're going to use on the next couple slides here. It's just a guy on a green screen. A very easy key because you can see he's a red shirt on a green background, which that's pretty much the best case scenario, and also very dark over a very well lit green screen. So you could pretty much do a very simple key of this shot, but it'll give us an example to demonstrate how the keyers work differently from each other. So if we take a look at Keylight, so all within this node, Keylight, there's three processes that are happening. So we could call this an all-in-one keyer node. You could just remember that this is happening. But you have to really break this down. I'm going to say this concept multiple times throughout this course so that we understand that in the node, three important things are happening. So we have an alpha that's being created. The green is being color corrected out of the image, so it's being despilled automatically. And the image is being pre-multiplied. So when you plug in a Keylight node and you click the green color in the background, usually you're presented with this image in the top right corner. So the image is already pre-multiplied, meaning these two images are being multiplied together. So another way to think of it is when you're plugging in this Keylight, it's doing two separate processes. It's creating a black and white alpha that's stored, and it's also just color correcting the original image, something like this. So it's just removing the green. And then it's multiplying these two together to give you this final result. So it's really important to understand that these two things are happening before you're getting this image. Even though when you plug in the Keylight and you select it, you're just going to be presented with this. And the reason we need to understand that is because eventually, once we get into a more complex key, we're going to need to control this process manually instead of letting everything happen just inside the node. So there's a way we can do that and not just rely on plugging in the node and hoping that the result is good. So Keylight specifically is really good at creating alphas that are, it can do a wide range of alphas, but it can do, hair detail and soft detail, things that are hard to capture, kind of semi-transparent stuff like that, like, maybe the little fur on this guy's coat, or if there's somebody running across the green screen with motion blur, that's a bit more difficult to key because you get semi-transparent colors. So Keylight's pretty good at it. Keylight's also very good at despilling, so it has a built-in despiller, which is basically some algorithms that you don't need to memorize, but essentially it's doing a little bit of math to do some color corrections to get something that looks natural. So Keylight is good at doing those things. So it's a pretty good, I would say, all-in-one keyer, and it's kind of, it's pretty much my go-to. This is probably my favorite keyer, along with IBK, which we'll talk about next. So if we go to the next one, if we talk about Primat, Primat is doing the same exact process. So if you plug in a Primat, you plug in the foreground thing here, and we're going to go into Nuke after, so don't worry. But if we plug it in, you can see we're getting that same pre-multiplied result, and it's doing some color corrections. So it is doing a despill, and it's doing a key. The despiller in the Primat is not as good. I would never use Primat for a despiller, but it is in there. I guess maybe somebody uses it, but It's not my personal workflow. I'm going to teach you guys a different way that works, I think, pretty well. I've worked with a lot of people, and I've never actually seen anyone use that for a D-spill. So maybe somebody out there is, but I guess that's my opinion on it. But anyways, so what Primeadd is actually really good for, and sometimes is useful, is creating these really hard keys. So it doesn't capture soft details very well, but it does create these really nice solid keys that you can kind of get rid of the holes. So maybe the key light would have some holes or something in the middle here, whereas this Primeadd usually gives a very solid alpha. So we can combine the two and combine the strengths of the two. And we'll talk about that once we get into the compositing structure. So IBK this is probably equally as good. Some people would say better than Keylight. So IBK and Keylight are probably going to be the ones you use the most often. And it works a little bit differently than the other two. So actually what it does and why it's called IBK is image-based keyer. So essentially you're taking this green screen. We have our original footage here. And what it does is it tries to create what's called a clean screen. So this is essentially just taking this green and pushing the color outward. So it's filling all of the areas that aren't green with this perfectly green color. And then what it's doing is looking at the difference of these two and trying to create an alpha from it. And it does a really good job. So you can get these you can see these are more difficult areas to key. You see these kind of out of focus poles or whatever they are back there. You see it's actually capturing that detail if you look at where my mouse is. So you can see it's doing a pretty good job. Some areas it's not doing a great job in this particular instance is this wire here on this lamp. So you can see the wire is actually supposed to be semi-transparent and solid. It's a little bit out of focus, so the keyer is not necessarily doing the best job. We could probably tweak the settings and get something better, or we could combine it with another key. So we're going to go over that once we get to the structure, like I said. But again, the end result is doing that three-step process where it's creating an alpha, it's despilling it, so it's doing a color correction, and it's pre-multiplying it. So if you put the two nodes together, you're going to get a result like this. But important to understand is that three-step process. So a quick summary of what we just talked about. We have the three keyers, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. And this is kind of how you would lay it out if you wanted to see the three of them. So again, we have the Keylight, which is good for soft edge keys, and the IBK. So IBK is excellent at this, so I put two little check marks there. But you can see if we're trying to get tricky details, hair detail, the things that are going to make you trip a little bit when you're trying to get a good key, these two are really the go-tos to try to solve that problem as your first thing to try. We have more advanced techniques as well, which we'll go over later on. But just to, if you're taking notes or something like that, you can take those down and think of it that way. The Keylight also does a decent job at hard edge keys. Sometimes you can do different things. You could probably actually use the IBK for some hard keys as well if you do some adjustments to it. But usually, I would go with a Primeadd or a Keylight to get something that, if you really want just a solid key with no holes in it. And for despilling, these two are probably the best as well, Keylight and IBK. Keylight in general is a very good despiller, so usually I use that the most. Like I said, I use this node the most for general keys and for despilling. And when I need to get really tricky edge detail, I'm using an IBK gizmo for that, and I'll combine it with the structure. So that's just a quick overview. It's best to use all of these in combination, and we'll see exactly how to do that. If you're not familiar, again, we're going to take a deep dive through all the settings and everything. So yeah, so if you're taking notes, that's going to help you out just to wrap your head around why is there so many keyers. And there is a fourth keyer called Ultimatte, but I've never seen a single person use this, so I'm not even going to teach it, to be honest. It's an overcomplicated keyer. I've never used it in my entire career, and I don't know anyone who actually has, and I've worked at some quite large companies. So these are the go-tos just to save you time. Don't bother, to be honest. You can look it up and watch a video on it, Ultimatte. But like I said, sort of a waste of time in my opinion. So yeah, everyone has their own way of keying. It's just something to preface and say that. But I think this will be a general good structure for most people to get up to the professional level with. So before we learn compositing structure, let's learn the basic nodes. We're going to open up the script called part1_tools.nk. So you can open up that project file. It's included with the download, and we'll get started.